Greetings and salutations, and welcome to episode number 178 of Ref the District. I am the stoner. To my left, which is to your right, dang it, I did it wrong, didn't I? Is my man Trev. Trev,
what up?
What's
Yes,
happening? Happy to everybody. Happy Juneteenth.
Yes, sir.
June 19th. Today is a holiday where we
I still have
celebrate
work,
freedom
whatever.
for all. Trev, did you have to work today?
I did. I worked this morning a lunch shift, but
Man.
I got off at 2:30, so
All right, so not too bad.
that's cool. I got a little holiday money. It's fine.
All right. Oh, you got like time and a half or something, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, nice. Very good.
It's really nice.
Very nice. All right. Well, yeah. Happy Juneteenth to everybody on this day on June 19th, 2024. It's a great time to be a part of Ref the District. So happy that everybody could join us. We are a proud member of the Believe Network. We appreciate everybody who's already here. We got a fantastic show today, Trev. We've got some fantastic topics to talk about that everyone's going to want to talk about here in the chat. So thanks to everybody who is already here. We'll get to you all. Make sure you all hit that like button. You're going to hear it from me often. You're going to hear it all the time. I'm going to keep saying it. Hit the like button and just keep on doing it. Remind everybody to keep doing it. And yeah, Nathan is not here tonight. He is enjoying some family time. He's had, I don't know how many consecutive Wednesdays of Ref the District, and he just wanted to take some time with his family. And that is awesome. But you have to deal with me and Trev this week. And you know what that means, Trev?
What's that mean, Stoner?
There might be some pop culture references. There might be some music in here, right, that we're going to talk about. Because you know what? Nathan can't stop us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When the parents are away, the children will play.
That's exactly right. So Nathan will be back next week. Don't worry. He'll keep us in line. But until then, you're going to have to deal with just Trev and I tonight. Again, it's episode 178. We're here every single Wednesday. It's 178 consecutive weeks that we have been live. Now, it hasn't been every Wednesday, Trev. I don't know if you noticed. We started Sundays, I believe, or Sunday afternoons, maybe.
Yeah.
Then we went to Sunday nights, and then I think we went to Mondays.
Yeah.
But we've been on Wednesdays for probably 2+ years.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, it's been 3.5 years of we haven't missed 1 week of Ref the District. So if you're a follower of Ref the District and we see everybody that's here, we appreciate you all that we are not going to miss a week of Ref the District. So you can count on that. And then just make sure that you treat our sponsors right. Again, we said we're a proud member of the Believe Network, and we are brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is the #1 source for all your sports betting this season. Baseball, golf, soccer, top fights in the UFC, MMA, boxing. Hockey's still going on. They're going to go to a game number 6 tomorrow, I believe, between Edmonton and Florida. All of a sudden, Florida went out 3-0, and Edmonton has won the last 2 by combined, 13-4, something like that.
I wish the NBA Finals was like that.
I know, right? The NBA Finals was a bit of a dud.
Huge dud.
Yeah, but the Celtics were the much better team, though, right?
For sure. Well, we could go on about that another show. If we
we can talk about that because we might have to talk some Wizards draft.
Okay, we can do that. We'll save it for the end. That's fine.
Okay. But yeah, don't forget, BetOnline is your #1 source for all your sports betting needs this season: baseball, golf, soccer, fights, UFC, MMA, boxing, every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. So you can live bet these games. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker and unwind with one of over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE for your 50% welcome bonus for your first deposit. Bet online. The game starts here. Appreciate everybody who is already in here. Nicole locked on. Tommy T is in the house. Roger is here. Billy, PNW Trout Slayer's here. Brian. Let's see. Rockman's here. Nice to see you. Big E, what's good? JG's here. Of course, Gus is here. We got to make sure We get some Wizards talk from Gus. He really wants to talk that. We'll talk a little Wizards talk. The Hawk is in the house. So we appreciate everybody who is here today. And we've got, like I said, a lot of stuff to talk about. In the cool down, Trev, I know I've been talking. Yeah. I'm going to stop talking here in a minute. Trust me.
You're good. You're good.
We're going to talk about the Commander's log that came out last week.
Oh, yeah.
After our show last
fire.
It was fire. And there are some points that maybe weren't talked about a lot that I want to get to.
Okay.
We're going to talk about that. During the game, we're actually going to swap up what you see on the side over there. We're going to talk Brandon Aiyuk in the game.
Okay.
We're going to swap that out a little bit, and we're going to do some camp prep talk now here in the warm-up. And don't forget, big guest tonight, George Carmy is going to be here from Big Doug and Carmy Show. He's going to stop by when we get into the game, and he's going to talk all about Brandon Aiyuk and Commanders moves and all that good stuff. So if you haven't followed George Carmy, make sure you go check him out on Twitter at George Carmy. He is a fantastic guest, and he'll be on with us here when we get into the game. All right, Trev, I've been talking way too much.
You gotta get.
So let's talk about this camp stuff.
Okay.
We know this, right? We know we've got basically a month until camp starts, right? Is it July 17th when rookies report?
July 14th, I believe, and then I think the vets are 18th.
Okay, there you go. So it's right there in mid-July. And so there's a month. This is really the biggest part, the biggest off-season gap that we have when nothing else is really going on. There are no more mini camps. There are no more OTAs. We go from what we had the last couple weeks, nothing until camp starts. So we got to figure out, what is Washington going to do during this time?
Okay.
Let me ask you this.
Yep.
What do you think that Adam Peters should be focusing on during these 4 weeks prior to camp starting? And I'm talking about Adam Peters specifically. So I mean roster-wise. Yeah. What should he be doing until camp starts in July? And I'm also asking everybody in the chat who is here. Again, make sure you hit that like button. But I want to hear what you guys think that Adam Peters should be doing here before camp starts.
Which he probably has this, but take a look at that left tackle free agent list. Take a look at that possible cut before training camp or during training camp list, and do some homework and go get us a left tackle. Because I'm still shaky on Cornelius Lucas starting. Trent Scott is a second-year guy, and then Brandon Coleman. Yeah, we got him in the third round, which he should be. That should tell you he should start or get some playing time as a backup or whatever. But he still gives me a little bit of too when I see.
Yeah,
of course, and I'm just basing that off of what I've seen and some highlight clips, and then what the analysts and everybody and the insiders are saying too. Like you said, they said he's nasty. He's got good hands, but is he NFL ready? So I think Adam Peters should just take a shot on one of these left tackle free agents, a vet guy, come in and teach all three of our potential starting left tackles the ropes and mentor them. That way, if something happens, they can be ready to step right in and take a chance. And I say that's because a lot of these tackles that are left are injury prone, are getting older up there in the age.
There's a reason they're still available, right?
Exactly. There's a reason. It's not saying they can't play. It's just they physically probably can't do it.
Yeah.
But I think you still take a flyer out on a David Bakhtiari. I see a Donovan Smith in the comments. I see, there's a few others out there probably. Of course, he should be on vacation, but he can read while on vacation. He can read and make some phone calls. So just take a flyer on one of those guys and see what they're about and bring them in. And like I said, be that mentor role. If essentially he signs, be that mentor role to the three guys we have, and then go from there. But left
kick
tackle,
the tires.
Yeah, man.
Kick the tires on a couple of guys. What does it hurt, right? You bring them in and you see what they got left. It's
training camp for a reason.
It's not going to cost you a lot of money, right?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And who knows? You might see a difference with the pads come on with Brandon Coleman and Cornelius Lucas and maybe Trent Scott. Maybe even David Bakhtiari or Donovan Smith. So you still have time to cut ties with them during camp and try on your backup plan. So just go get a vet LT, please. Let's just do that.
What about some people have posited in here about corner? Should they go out and find another, a veteran corner based on what they have at this point?
No,
No.
I don't think so. If you are looking for that, wait till training camp starts or gets done, then possibly, take a look at the tape and sign one here if we have to cut somebody here and take their spot. But I mean, I know there's a Marcus Peters out there that's a corner now, a free safety option. There's some other older guys that are available too. I have to look at the list, but we've got enough. I think we made enough move at cornerback to get us to training camp at least.
Yeah.
We signed the depth guy from Pittsburgh. Then we got Michael Davis. We still got Benjamin St. Juice. We still got Emmanuel Forbes. And then I think there's some players. Castro Fields from last year is still there. They got some other guys they brought in too. So I think we're pretty much set on cornerback till we get to training camp and let these guys put some pads on and see how they do when it's real life situations. You know what I mean?
Okay. TJ's talking about, is he or didn't Gilmore say he's retired?
Nah, he's just being patient. He's out there taking his time, looking for the absolute right fit. He thinks he's still got enough in the tank, which he kind of does. He was just Defensive Player of the Year, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long, and he's made 3 or 4 Pro Bowls. He made a Pro Bowl with Carolina and played 9 games.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's a good one to kick the tires on too, but we'll see. Like I said, but just hold off. If he wants to be patient, let him be patient. Let us get through training camp with that position and then go from there.
Okay. Are you satisfied at this point that they are set at kicker? Or do they need to bring another kicker in? I mean, that dude from the UFL has been pretty solid in the little bit of time he's been there.
I think the same with the cornerback. Get him, maybe get someone else for competition and go through training camp like that and then go from there. I mean, there's probably a couple of vets out there too that are probably looking for a job, but if we've got what we've got right now for training camp, might as well just ride on out with the sunset with that.
Grimjoe saying that, we missed out on the Jake Bates sweepstakes.
He wanted to stay home in Michigan. That's all it is.
Yeah, I get it. I think we said this a while back that Jake Bates to me felt kind of like the sexy pick because, because he hit a couple of really long field goals and then everybody's talking about him. And he may not necessarily be the guy, but I think Detroit's banking on him being the guy. I think they gave him a fair amount of money.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not discrediting those long field goals in UFL, but let's be real here because that's what we are in Rifted District. We're pretty real. The stands is about a quarter full. There's no real noise or distraction from you to even
that's true, right?
Take a chance on missing the kick. So no offense. I mean, it's a new startup league and I like what they're doing. Shout out to The Rock and his partner and all that, but
nobody there.
It was 37 people in the stands. And
right? I don't think I watched a game or two and not even the whole game. If I happen to be flipping channels and I came across it, I'd watch for a little bit, but I don't know.
I mean, it's just not good idea. You're giving people a chance again.
Yeah.
But it's only 10-game season with 8 teams.
Yeah.
I think it should expand a little bit more. If Joel Klatt wasn't calling games, I probably wouldn't have stayed watching as long as I did when I did watch it.
You like Joel Klatt?
I like his commentary.
And
he's pretty college football. You don't like Joel Klatt?
No, I like Joel Klatt.
Oh,
yeah.
He's
pretty
really knowledgeable when it comes to college football. I think him and Gus Johnson are great during the college football season. But like I said, if it wasn't for him calling these UFL games, I probably would have turned the channel faster than I did. So.
All right. Deluxe is saying, and this is one of the topics I had on here, to get Cosme under contract. This is feeling to me very, very, very similar to Brandon Sheriff. And it's the exact same position. It was injuries were kind of derailing a little bit, but at some point, Brandon Sheriff became a stud. But by that time, it was too late because they couldn't make up their mind about his contract. Do you think that they should sign him now in this offseason? Because this is year 4. that he's coming up on, right? Which means he's a free agent at the end of the year. And so it's either sign him to a long-term deal now, sign him to a long-term deal at the end of the season, or, go through the whole franchising and all that other stuff like they did with Sheriff. Do you think he's worthy of a long-term contract right now, Trev?
Yes, I do. And I think long-term in the sense of 3, maybe 4 years. I would say 3.
Okay.
Just given his injury history that he has already with us. And he's already switched the position on the offensive line once, you know what I mean? So, but he's like one of the top 5 guards in the NFL. Everybody has ranked. And he did it very, very quietly on a 4-13 team.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, you don't have to go in there and, you don't have to break the bank for him, I don't think. And I don't think he's going to demand
$24 million
like that. Right?
$8 million a year.
Give him a Be-A-Dish contract.
Yep, 3 years, 26, 27 million. 24, but then add some bonus and stuff, and then to get you to 27.
If of course he's willing to sign for something like that. I mean, he hasn't. Right. I don't mean to say that he's as good as Sheriff, but I mean the whole situation of a guy who is going to be a right guard for your team for the next 6 or 7 years,
right?
And is going to be very solid. He's probably not Pro Bowl, but he's going to be very solid. So we'll see what he's willing to take.
You also don't want to put your second-year quarterback next year, Jayden Daniels, in a position of rebuilding offensive line again.
Sure.
Because who's to say Wiley's going to be here next season? Who's to say Cornelius Lucas or anybody else is going to be here? You know what I mean? So might as well go ahead and lock him up so you have your center, your Cosme, and then maybe try to extend somebody else. But you don't want to keep shaking up the offensive line during Jayden Daniels' career because he'll never get it.
Because depending on what Coleman turns into at left tackle, right? You're going to have a new, possibly left guard next year. I'm an Allegretti guy. I think he's going to be a solid left guard, but we'll see. So you may have a new left guard next year and probably a new right tackle with Wiley, and his dead cap hit is way less next year. If you do that, then and you don't sign Cosme, then you're replacing 3 guys on your offensive line and maybe 4, depending on what Coleman turns into. We have no idea what Coleman's going to be.
Exactly. So you might as well just go ahead and lock your assets up now.
I agree.
To prevent your terror that's coming.
Yeah, I think so. Do you think, and again, when I ask Trev these questions, I'm also asking everybody here in the chat. Yes, Trev.
Oh, I'm piggybacking on that. I don't know these questions before the show.
Yeah.
I don't know what Stoner wants to talk about for the camp commander's log later. This is all off the dome. So that's what we bring at the district. There's no script.
That's what we do, Trev.
I know.
And Trev, by the way, did you see that Justin Timberlake got arrested for DUI in the Hamptons?
Did you see what was in his bloodstream allegedly?
No, I did not see that. What?
Molly, little cocaine.
No way.
T word, that's a drug, and some other things. Allegedly, all that was in his blood system.
Wow.
So
Poppers? What are poppers? Gus said he had poppers.
I don't know.
I don't know. Sorry, I'm about as square as you can get when it comes to these things.
But so very, very interesting.
Yeah. All right. So getting back to what they're going to do. Asking you, Trev, and everybody in the chat also, do you think Jayden is going to schedule a workout with the receivers? And I mean, Cosme. Howell did that last year, right? And we got all excited. We had Diami and McLaurin and Dotson and all. And there was who was the guy who was like, why is he there? Maybe it was Bryson Tremaine or something was there. And we're like, why is this?
Something. Yeah.
But do you expect him to do something like that this offseason, before camp starts?
For sure. Yes. And I'm sitting here, as you said, when Sam Howell did it, I'm thinking, why did we get so excited when he did it in camp, OTAs every day? So why did we get excited for him doing it in the offseason? But for this season, we should be super excited. It's needed. The kid loves football, so he's probably out
Mm.
there itching to go anyway after taking probably like a week or two off. Yeah, he's going to assemble it. Terry, Jahan, probably some other receivers from other teams. AJ Brown tweeted out that like they have tight end university and DBs get together and linemen. Why don't receivers get together? Like, stop being too big for the game, get together and let's do something. I retweeted and put Terry, Dotson, Luke, go get you some. I would really love the Rosemead Jack Saint pick that or the signage from Georgia. I like him a lot.
You like him a lot?
I put him in that list. Go out there and get some work too.
Yeah.
Yeah, do that. We need to gel. Brand new offense, brand new quarterback, a few new faces. Jamison Crowder, get out there. Let's go. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, good. I think that'll probably happen at some point, whether it's out in like California or Arizona, where some of these guys are from. And in case you just joined us, we have Brandon Aiyuk as our topic for the warm up here, but we're going to get to that in the game. So we're doing the camp prep now. So when George Carmy gets here, and if you haven't followed George Carmy before, check him out on Twitter. He's a great follow. He'll be in here to talk about Brandon Aiyuk's situation and so much more. Because I'm telling you right now, the spoiler alert, I don't know which side of the fence I'm on with this one. I don't know yet.
It's tough.
So I can be convinced either way because I understand both arguments. And so that's why I'm excited to talk about it, Trev, is that there's so much both sides have to offer. So we'll get to that in the game coming up right around 8:00 here in just a few more minutes. A couple other things. What do you make of the leadership, Peters and Quinn and them, not ready to name Jayden Daniels as the starter? Right? They haven't come out and said Jayden Daniels is a starter. They're like, I mean, he's basically getting all the number one reps and all that, but it kind of reminds me of last year when Bieniemy refused to name Howell the starter when everybody knew he was. What do you make of this new regime not naming him as a starter?
They're just following their suit they've been playing with this entire time. No leaks. Don't give out anything to let anybody else know. Joe Witt has said it in, I think, one of his most recent after practice press conferences. Why would I tell you where Frankie Louvu is going to line up? We got 11 to 17, 18 guys that can go everywhere. Why am I going to tell you when other teams are watching? No disrespect, but other teams are watching these interviews. And he's absolutely correct. Yeah, don't name him the starter. I mean, it's clearly obvious. I mean, we picked him with our first pick, which was number 2, and he won the Heisman, and he's taken QB1 reps. And I know Dan Quinn threw in Marcus Mariota on the Jim Rome show a few days ago saying, like, he's a Heisman winner too, number 2 pick, so it's cool to see them gel. Yeah, but we still know behind that little bit of smoke, Jayden Daniels is the starter.
Yeah, I agree that he's the starter. He's unquestioned starter. But I just found it curious that they're just not naming him.
I mean, it's OTAs. They might name him after training camp, which would be fine.
Yeah.
But I also think the reason why they did it last year is because I think there might have been a real threat that Jacoby Brissett was pushing to be starting quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. I think more so than we were kind of led to believe. I mean, some of us were talking about it. Some of us were talking about it in training camp, in preseason, when Jacoby was looking good and everyone's kind of throwing the whole, maybe Jacoby is QB1, and people were like, don't be stupid. But maybe there was a little bit of merit to that.
What if he did? What if it turned out to be QB1? What do you think our season record would have been?
Oh, I don't think it would have been much different. Maybe you win a game or two, and instead of Jayden Daniels, we have J.J. McCarthy, right? If that had happened. But in terms of what I think might have had, I mean, they might have won 6 games. Yeah. Still would have sucked, right? Because everything else else went wrong. So, yeah. All right.
I don't know.
A couple more things here, Trev. Will or should, let me say should instead of will. Should Dan Quinn continue to wear a backwards hat during games? Games.
Yes.
Does he do it during games? I can't recall if he's a backwards
up in the box. He did games. Up in the box in Dallas last year as a coordinator.
Yeah, that was as DC. But
Right.
what about as head coach? Do you think that he will wear a backwards hat? Because
I don't know if he should, yes, but will he? I don't know.
Yeah, he should, Trev. You know why? Because when I saw him on that commander's log, and it's actually in my notes here, and he was all in a suit and everything.
Yeah.
Dan Quinn,
He
you
looked
are
quite uncomfortable, didn't he?
Yes.
He didn't know where to put his hands that uncomfortable. Like
he's like Ricky
he
Bobby.
Didn't know the way, and he was buying everything that Adam Peters was saying, so he was falling for everything. He was so gullible. He was just uncomfortable the entire. Yeah, put your backwards hat on, boy, and put a hood on.
Right.
You're the head coach.
Yeah.
So what? Are they going to fine you? Right? Are they going to fine you?
Yeah. No, because I don't think there's a rule for that in the NFL for head coaches. I remember back in the day, and this is going way back. Sorry, I'm an older guy, right? I remember the coach of the 49ers. His name was Mike Nolan, right? And Mike Nolan would wear a suit during the game. He was the head coach on the sidelines. He would wear a suit. He got fined for that because the NFL did not want him wearing a suit. And I don't know, kind of what the whole reason why they didn't want him wearing a suit.
I was going to say, when did that change? Because didn't they wear suits back in the day, like Lombardi days? And
yeah, maybe.
Weren't they wearing seersucker jackets and collared shirts and stuff?
Yeah, maybe. It's
the detective hat. Yeah.
He needs to stick with his look because and it's fine like if he's just wearing a regular hat, that's fine or whatever. But that's kind of his signature.
And I'm gonna need all them shirts wearing in practices. I can't find them shirts on any. I need all of them.
They
are fire. Yes, he's out there,
especially the controversial one with the feather coming off of the W.
That's on the internet already. But I need all them other ones. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, as we talked about, again, if you are joining us a little bit late, we moved our topics around. So that was the camp prep that we were going to talk about later, but we're going to talk all about this whole Brandon Aiyuk situation. And we have our guest who's going to be joining us here when we get to the game. We're excited to talk to George Cary from the Big Doug and Cary show and lots of other places, by the way. You can find him anywhere. I can't keep up with all of his different platforms to where weren't you and him doing a full press
coverage,
right?
Yeah, I'm gonna say when he gets on. I haven't seen George in a while, so this is good.
Really? Good. Okay, it's been a minute, right? So for all who are joining us, make sure you stick around. Again, we appreciate everybody who's here. Make sure you hit that like button. Again, Nathan's taking some family time today, so he won't be here. It's just me and Trev. And now we're super excited because we're going to be able to talk to George Cary here. So stay with us. All right, welcome back to the show. I think I messed that one up. There we go. Welcome back to Ref the District here. Again, I'm the Stoner. That's Trev. Make sure you hit that like button. We appreciate everybody who's here. We're a proud member, again, of the Believe Network, and we're sponsored by Bet Online and Don't Sleep Energy. Make sure, especially today, make sure you get your Don't Sleep Energy drink. Don't Sleep is a local DMV company, and their energy drinks and their energy shots are awesome. They have they have what you call it. They have sugar-free. They have regular. It's fantastic. Make sure you go out to don'tsleepenergy.com. Use the code DISTRICT, as in Ref the District. So make sure you use the code DISTRICT, and you will get 10% off anything on their site. You can also go to Amazon and check them out, but you won't be able to use that code. So just go straight to their website, don'tsleepenergy.com, and use the code DISTRICT to get 10% off anything on their site. So, Trev, let's get to it. Let's bring our guest in here. Right, we've got George Cary again. We're gonna pop him in here. We're gonna do a few graphics here. Oh, hang on, let me do the whole graphics thing. Normally,
I have no idea how to do this.
Yeah, normally this is a what you call it thing. This is a what's his name? A Nathan thing. George Cary, welcome to the show.
Sorry. There you go. Gentlemen, what's going on, guys? How you doing?
George, what's up, dog?
Not much. I'm happy to be here. Trevor, I haven't seen you in forever, but I heard you in the pre-show. I'm happy to be here, man. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah, man. It's good to see you too.
Where have you been, George and Trev? I mean, George is everywhere. Trev is everywhere, but George and Trev haven't been everywhere.
Dude, life.
It's kind of like,
go ahead, Trev. Go ahead.
Yeah, like me and George, we did a podcast, kind of like an intro podcast to the podcast world because we both still kind of new at it. And then you just venture off and kind of do your own thing. There's no bad blood. It's like high school. You got your friends up until high school, then you all go to college and lose a little bit of touch and reconnect at reunions. And that's all it is right here. So
I will forever love Trevor. I have no bad blood by any means. All you guys. It's all love in the DC area. And Trevor was right, man. We started this a couple years, dude, starting podcast from the ground up like 3-4 years ago, full press coverage. Is how I cut my teeth into the game. I was a majority a writer. I was a writer for the most part. And then over the years, I kind of grew into more of a podcaster. That's kind of where I'm at now. So happy to be here, man. Looking forward to talking about this.
Well, George, tell us a little bit about your show that you do with Big Doug. We love Big Doug as well. I know you guys kind of got together fairly recently and been doing some amazing shows. I know you guys are really into fantasy football as well. But tell us about your show with Big Doug.
It's awesome, man. So yeah, me and Big Doug, we've been friends for a very long time. All of us, just like Trevor mentioned, we all started off a long time ago. Me and Doug, our first podcast, when I was one of his first guests ever on his show before we even had video podcasting. It was an audio we recorded with no camera on way back in the day, 4 or 5 years ago. We've kept in touch, been in touch for a very long time now. And just over the years, we kind of gravitated towards each other and we're always in each other's DMs. And he's like, hey, George, I want to have someone to do this with me. I think it's more fun to kind of bounce ideas off of. Like, do you want to join us with me? I'm like, of course, man. So it was more casual about a year and a half ago, but over the last 6, 7, 8 months, habitually we've been together every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and that's our schedule now. We get together every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're typically Commander-centric, but we like to just do DC sports in general. We're moving into fantasy football over the summer, doing more like dynasty leagues and rookie draft leagues and best ball leagues, which have been a lot of fun. Next Wednesday, we have a Wizards, draft preview show. We have some, Washington Wizard guests coming on doing that too. So I'm doing that primarily. And my other big thing is on Sundays. Like Joe Castro, Trevor. I don't know if you remember him at all. But he's been my boy for a long time. So Joe Castro, Big Game James from the Cowboys. He's the Cowboys creator as well. We do a best of enemies show on Sunday mornings. We're kind of starting that up now. Where we just kind of talk about camp and NFC East and getting impact from each other there too. So it's been fun, man. Talking NFC East on the weekends, Commanders on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So that's been good.
All right. So like I was telling Trev earlier, George, is that so Nathan's not here. So we can veer off a little bit and talk some hoops and some pop culture and all this other stuff.
Okay.
So before we get into it, and Gus has been wanting us to talk about Wizards draft a little bit. The draft is a week from tomorrow, right? On the 26th. Yeah. So let's assume, I'm going to assume here first, let's assume that Atlanta is taking Reece Shea. Okay. Who do you want? I'll ask you first, George. Who do you want the Wizards to take it to?
I need you guys to educate me. So I'll be honest with you. I'm learning about this. I'm picking it up. I was a big Wizards fan, but ever since I actually was a season ticket holder to the Wizards, right? Oh. Then once they got rid of John Wall, man, my heart broke. And it's been kind of like casual love for a little while now. Yeah. So I'm kind of watching from a distance, and that preview show is going to be more educational to Cary. I'll be learning on that preview show in regard to that. But I'm curious, what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on it?
Trev's not allowed to answer because he's a Bulls fan.
Okay. I got you.
Trev,
okay.
Who do you think the Wizards should take it to? And by the way, when are the Bulls picking?
I don't even know. See, that's how much I've been. Okay. Whatever.
That's what happens when the Wizards are bad. Everybody gets we're just out, right? But
honestly, I don't even really know. I mean, if Atlanta's taking number one, they're taking that person. Go get Zach Edey from Purdue.
I think he's going later in the first round, from what I gather. Maybe early second, so I'm catching.
Yeah, see, I don't even know when he's supposed to go. But
a
lot of UConn. So I really don't know. Like Alex Sarr, I don't even know who that is. I keep saying
Alex Sarr is what I'm hearing too.
So Alex Sarr. If not, Bronny James. Shock the world and go get Bronny James and bring him to the DC Capitol. And then LeBron's going to come to the Wizards as well. And then we going, baby.
There you go.
Let me say y'all are going. I'll say y'all are going.
I mean, the problem with this particular draft is they're predicting it to be one of the worst drafts in the last 15 years. So it's kind of between those two Frenchmen, which is Reece Shea and Sarr. And then you've got the big 7-footer from Connecticut, Klingon.
Yeah.
And then you've got the shooter from Kentucky, Shepard. They could go any direction, but I just thought it was interesting to see who the Wizards might take at 2. Here's the other thing, George, about fantasy football. If you invited me to your league, I would win.
Okay, you would win?
Not in one of those. What did you call that? The one where you draft
dynasty or rookie draft or best ball?
See, you're saying a bunch of things I don't know.
Okay.
The legacy or whatever.
Dynasty. Yeah, dynasty.
There you go.
Okay.
I wouldn't do well at that, but listen, I have the secret, and I've told these guys about it, and I win. I don't necessarily win the championship every year, but I always finish high because once you get to the playoffs, it's a one-off, and you know anybody can beat anybody, right? But it's very simple. It's a very simple process, and you might not like this, George, but this is how it works.
Okay.
When it comes to the draft, don't draft. Let the computer pick for you.
Okay. There's no fun in that, though. There's no fun.
Exactly.
The whole point is picking your guys, right? That's the whole point of that. But I got you. Okay.
Let the computer draft for you because stop trying to think you're smarter than a computer.
Okay.
Right? You're not. Right? And then when you do your lineup every week, go and take the guy who's projected to get the most points at every position.
Analytics. Week. Exactly. You're right. Exactly right. Computer generated.
I mean, you sit there and you look at it and you say, well, the computer says that, I'm just throwing out names here, that Jahan Dotson is going to get 12 points. And that, let's just say Brandon Aiyuk, since we're going to talk about him, is scheduled or is projected to get 16 points. And you look at it and you say, well, Dotson's going up against the 28th ranked pass defense, and he's been doing really well, and he's my team. I'm starting Dotson. Well, that's just not smart. You have to take your brain out of it. Let the computer, and you'll get to the playoffs, and you'll finish high every year. That's my advice to everybody here, but it's definitely not fun.
I might have to try that one time. At least.
Yeah, I do it every year, and I'm always finishing in the top 3. And I don't always win, like I said, because the playoffs are a different animal. It's a one-off game, and your guy who's supposed to score 18 scores 1.
My question to you before we get back into the actual Commanders: do you actually let the computer auto pick for you, or do you just wait and just pick the highest person on the draft board every single time? What do you do?
No, I sit back with a drink and a cigar or whatever, and I let the computer
if you do the auto pick at the computer, like the time wind down, that's annoying. Don't do that at all. Okay.
Yes.
That'd be pretty rough. Okay, but if you just do the top of the board, I got that. That's fine. I'll take that. It's all good.
Yeah. Well, you sit there and you say, well, I can't believe Aaron Rodgers is still available in the 3rd round, and he's sitting there. I should go get him, but the top ranked guy available might be, again, Brandon Aiyuk. I'm taking Brandon Aiyuk because the computer told me to, and I'm not smarter than a computer. All right. So anyway, let's get into this Aiyuk situation. As I told Trev before we got into this whole thing, I'm on the fence, George. I'm on the fence of, I understand both sides of the argument, but let me hear from you first, and then we'll go to Trev. And there's a lot of people talking about this here in the chat. Tell me what side of the fence you're on. Should the Commanders go get Brandon Aiyuk?
So I think Brandon Aiyuk is an impulse buy. I think he is a luxury, and I think he is a big shiny object that people want right now, but he's not the smart decision, right? I think my metaphor that I said in a group chat was he's basically like buying an awesome flat screen TV and mounting it in your house before you even move into it yet, right? It's going to look fly and sexy the first couple of weeks, but dude, after a couple of weeks, the sun might be hitting a different direction. You might want to change the furniture. You have no idea what's going to happen in a couple of years, but you have that TV mounted against the wall and you're kind of screwed. You're kind of limited to what you just did, right? I like the flexibility in the future. Like, I think Brandon Aiyuk's an awesome player. Like, if he could come to DC, I would, that would be very interesting. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't be upset. I'd be all in, right? I'm just worried that we don't even know what's going to happen next year, right? Like, we don't even know what Cliff Kingsbury's offense is going to look like. We don't know if it's going to be effective. We don't know if it's going to be predominantly a running team. We don't know if it's going to be an air raid team. We don't really know what's going to happen. When Cliff Kingsbury came into the league, he had an air raid offense, 4 wide receivers, spread across the field, and he wanted these big, deep concepts. As the years progressed, it became more of a 2-3 tight end system, more of a run system. He actually was top 10 in running for this, third and fourth year of him as a head coach. So we don't even know what the offense is going to look like. So Yes, Ayuk would be interesting, but I think it would hamper our overall growth, right? Because we have McLaurin, we have Jahan Dotson, and we have these other McCaffrey is going to be a prospect. We have Sinnott coming up. We don't want to put another wide receiver in there that could potentially stop their growth. The argument could be, hey, we have an instant all-star. Ayuk is arguably a top 10 wide receiver, but at the same time, you're kind of buying high, right? Like I'm looking at his stats. I did a little research before I jumped on. Over the last 3 years, right? 826 yards. This was in 2021. 2022, 1,000 yards, and 2023, 1,342, right? So he obviously, it's the best year that he's had, so he's going to be at this highest point right now. And we're neglecting the fact that it's a Kyle Shanahan offense. Kyle Shanahan's one of the best offensive minds in the league. He's not Cliff Kingsbury. So you're kind of like, is that skill set going to transfer over to DC, which it might very well could be. But at the same time, I'm worried about that. And on top of that, we're going to have to pay him, right? So, if he comes over here, he's on a 5th-year option right now. He's going to be a $15 million direct hit directly onto our cap. I believe we have like $37 million right now. It'll be $15 million a direct hit right onto our contract, and then we have to pay him next year. I'm not opposed to that, but the only thing that I'm worried about is we have a plenty of other free agents as well. If you look at it, I have it right here: Bobby Wagner, Jeremy Chin, Zach Ertz, Cornelius Lucas, Clelin Ferrell. The list goes on and on. Basically, our edge depth is going to go away, our cornerback depth is going to go away, and our tackle depth is going to be gone. We're going to have to replace them somehow. So I don't know. It's interesting. I love it. But I think it's just like I like the flexibility. It's like Aiyuk. It's opportunity cost, right? Is it either Aiyuk or everything else? I'm kind of in the everything else kind of pot right now. Because you can always be flexible later. Why do we have to be married to this one person? And I have more to add, but I'll throw it back to the group. I don't know what you guys want to jump in on.
All right, Trev, what do you think? I mean, he's pretty much in the camp of don't get Aiyuk. Trev, where are you leaning?
A little bit towards the go get him.
Okay.
Comma, if it's worth it. I've seen a lot of comments. A lot of people say a 5th-round pick. I even think somebody, Stoner or Nathan, said a 5th-round pick in our group chat for Brandon Aiyuk. If we could do that, go get him.
I've seen 2nd and 4th, just for the record. Let's just go with 2nd and 4th. Is that
2nd and 4th? I mean, we have Adam Peters. I really don't care what we do with picks now, because we have Adam Peters and what he did with this draft and what he's done in the draft. That's where I'm at for that. But yes, because after Terry and Jahan, who do we have? Are we really banking on Jamison Crowder? Are we banking on Luke McCaffrey to be wide receiver 3 that Stoner here thinks he is already before he's even put a pad on? Do we think anybody else is going to be wide receiver 3? It's just outside of those top 2, it's a big question mark. I think if you go get Aiyuk, you could put him with Terry and Jahan. Then you have a 3-headed monster, and then you could still use Luke, maybe not as much as you wanted to before the Aiyuk trade, but now you can still get him in on some gadget plays. You can get him in the backfield with Austin Eckler or B-Rob, or even 5 wide one time and put him out there, or 4 wide one time. So I just think that Terry and Jahan's not enough if we want to achieve the goals that Dan Quinn is set out to achieve, and that's to compete. No disrespect to them two. Those are our 2 best receivers, and after that, it's a question mark. And like George, I agree. We still don't know if he'll fit the offense. We don't know if even Luke will fit the offense. But I feel like with the way that they drafted, they did pick players that would probably fit the best product or the best system that we have on the field. Now, if we pick these picks with the front office from last year, year before, then I'd have more of a question well, we don't know if they're going to fit. But I feel like with the front office and the coaches we have, we targeted players that would fit what we're trying to do on offense and defense and special teams. So, no, I'm on the same thing with George on the no reasons, but I'm leaning more to the positive because I still think we need at least 3 good wide receivers to be at least a bit of successful that we want to reach in the NFL.
George, does the 2nd and 4th round that you're giving up, assuming, of course, we're all just throwing things out there. We have no idea. But let's just say it's the 2nd and 4th round. Does that convince you even more that they shouldn't do it? Or does a 2nd and 4th not seem as penal to you for a guy like Aiyuk?
It's interesting, right? So Trevor talked about how Adam Peters is our GM now and he snipes in the draft. If you put that in your back of your mind, a 2nd and a 4th round pick is actually very vital, very important, right? You're going to walk away with some pretty good starters that you're going to have that's going to be on your team for years and years. Yeah. So that is kind of a worry. That is kind of a worry, right? You're giving up a 2nd and a 4th round pick. Do I think Brandon Aiyuk is a plug-and-play player? Absolutely. I think he's a great route runner. I think he can fit our offense. I think he likes Jayden Daniels. I think it's great. But, yes, I do. At second and fourth, it's not going to murder us, but at the same time, it hampers us long-term, right? And the one thing I kind of think about in the back of my mind is wide receivers, they're expensive nowadays, right? I'm looking at the top 5, right? Justin Jefferson, $35 million. A.J. Brown, 32. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 30. Tyreek Hill, 30. Jalen Waddle, 28. People are talking about Brandon Aiyuk getting paid $30 million to be a wide receiver. Once again, opportunity cost. So are you going to pay Brandon Aiyuk $30 million and a second and a fourth round pick, or are you willing to watch Luke McCaffrey develop and maybe even draft another wide receiver in the second round next year, right? So looking at that, I feel like that's pretty, I think the latter option is probably a better option. Like Aiyuk sounds awesome. Like I would love to have him, but at the same time, we're giving up a lot. And then next year, actually, I don't have the list right in front of me, but like next year, there's going to be some wide receivers available too. So it might not be Aiyuk this year. It could be like legitimately Stephon Diggs is going to be available next year. T. Higgins is going to be available next year. DeAndre Hopkins, he's older, but Mike Williams. There's a bunch of wide receivers that are going to be available next offseason. Brandon Aiyuk is interesting because of this whole like social media thing, but once again, it's him versus everything else. I'd rather take everything else. I'd rather have the options and flexibility. It's kind of where I'm at.
George, what picks would you trade away to get Brandon Aiyuk? Let's say you want him and you're willing to trade draft picks. Which ones would it be? So
the second and the fourth, I think, is a fair trade. That if you give away a third, I wouldn't even think twice. Like, I'd be also giving a third. I mean, that's apples for apples. Third round pick is pretty valuable, but you're getting a starting wide receiver as a result. So I'm not necessarily opposed to that. But seconds are pretty valuable. Like, I think the cost is kind of what I'm worried about. I think another thing, maybe I'm overthinking it. And you guys can jump in on this. That's the dynamic, right? Like, we have Terry McLaurin as our captain. He's our wide receiver 1. Brandon Aiyuk, if you come in and start paying him more and he's best friends with Jayden Daniels, what's going to happen with that, right? He's going to –
good point.
Yeah, it's going to create kind of a locker. Like, Terry McLaurin's a great guy. So maybe he just jumps on it. Oh, we're going to win together. But that kind of changes a little bit of the dynamic in the locker room as well, right? And then what happens with Jahan Dotson? Jahan Dotson, he's a fifth-year option next year. It's going to be a $15 million option if you pick him up. And you're probably going to have to sign him long-term as well if he even deserves it. Like,
I was going to say – yeah,
you kind of hit on it. Like I love Terry McLaurin. Like the issue with this, people are going to hate me in the chat for this. The issue with this is Terry McLaurin's playing like a number 2, and Jahan Dotson's playing like a number 3. But we're paying Terry McLaurin like a top 10, top 15 wide receiver. That's the problem. And the thing is, you're going to add someone else to the group. That's going to kind of mix things up. So Terry McLaurin being 30 years old, what are we going to do about that? Jahan Dotson. If we get Brandon Aiyuk, it's going to be like 1 year of these 3 together. Then eventually one of them is going to have to go, in my opinion. I don't think we can keep all 3.
And if that's the case, right now on the spot to be early out is Jahan Dotson for me. I think just because of his sophomore slump last year or whatever the past couple of years, I think this is his prove-it year to see if he's even worthy of an extension with this regime or if we want to let him go and go get a vet to pair with Terry McLaurin and Luke McCaffrey if he's able to shine. So.
Look, I think we might be overthinking it a little bit. As I'm hearing what both of you guys are saying, and I'm seeing what's going on here in the chat a little bit. But look, let's say you give up a second and fourth for him, and he comes in this year, and he's on just this 1-year deal where you're paying him $15 million. You got plenty of money. Money this year should not be a factor at all, right? So he comes in, you've got plenty of money to get him, and he comes here. And he balls out. He plays like a 1, right? He gets you 80 catches, 85 catches for 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns, okay? That's a 1.5, 2, somewhere a little bit better than Terry's stats, right?
Right, yeah.
That's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have. And if you have that, one of those other 2 guys or 3 guys or however far you want to go down the list, Jahan or Terry, they're not going to have the kind of year that you would expect him to. So Jahan might be back down there with his 40 catches or whatever. Then okay, I got my 2 studs, and I'm going to have to let Jahan go, and I'm going to have to sign Aiyuk.
So it's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have.
Okay.
And if he doesn't ball out, and he is just another guy, he is a Alvin Harper, right? Who went from who was a
Throw
stud
back?
number
Okay.
2 with the Cowboys,
Gotcha.
went to Tampa and was terrible, right? And then came here and was still terrible. But the point is, if he comes here and he can't make that transition from a 2 to be a stud guy, you lost a couple of draft picks, but you gave it a shot, and you gave your brand new quarterback as many weapons as you possibly could to see if it would work. So I do understand the draft capital that you're giving up, but everything else, I think you gotta at least bring him in and see what he can do for this offense. And if he balls out, go ahead and give him $30 million a year or whatever it takes, or franchise him if you have to, because you will have that option to do so because he's under contract with you. I just think as I've been listening, I've been trying to figure it all out. I just think he would be good for this organization in terms of what they're trying to do. And you only have to figure it out next year.
My thing is this.
Figure it out in 25.
My thing is this, right? If we're going to do something like that, I wouldn't feel comfortable at all trading a second-round pick for a one-year rental, right? There's no way I would do that, right? If it was like a fourth-round pick, if the 49ers are willing to do that, like, hey, fourth-round pick, fifth-round pick for him, I'm willing to roll the dice and wait on the extension there, but you have to extend him, in my opinion, if you trade for him.
So as soon as you trade for him, you got to extend him.
Have to, in my opinion, right? I think so. I think so. For the draft capital, for sure. Unless it's like very remedial draft capital, like a fifth-round pick or sixth-round pick. But the thing is, the 49ers want him. I think that's what people are forgetting about in this whole conversation. Brandon Aiyuk is the one that's kind of making all the fuss and fuss on social media and making all the big issues. The 49ers like him. He's their best wide receiver. People hear Deebo Samuel got that name recognition, but Deebo Samuel hasn't been the same since Christian McCaffrey has come over to the 49ers. They have a redundant skill set. Christian McCaffrey catches out of the backfield. He runs the ball from the backfield. It's diverse that way. Aiyuk is number one. And I think Brock Purdy likes Brandon Aiyuk, and they have a good connection there. So I think the dream is to extend Purdy and extend Aiyuk, maybe even trade Samuel. So, for me, I think what's going to happen. Let me say one thing, Trevor.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get a fifth-year extension, and then I think he might get a franchise tag. I don't see Aiyuk springing loose, in my opinion. I think we think it's interesting because it's the whole social media thing, but I think he's staying in San Francisco. Go ahead, Trevor. Sorry.
No, you're good. Just apologize. It just popped in my head, and then after I just go like that. The last time John Lynch made a public statement about keeping a player, it didn't happen. It was Trey Lance. He was all on Trey Lance's side. Trey Lance is a good fit, yada, yada, yada. We don't want to trade him. What happened? Out of nowhere, they trade him. Same thing with Brandon Aiyuk. He's come out saying, we want him back. If you want him back.
They also did the same thing with Deebo. When Deebo was making noise about his contract, and Lynch was saying, "Look, we're working on it. We're trying," and they got it done.
And Nick Bosa too.
But that is Deebo Samuel.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So here's the thing. Also, for San Francisco's case, is they can't. I'm sorry, but they can't afford Brandon Aiyuk. They have way too many contracts. That's
what I'm saying. That's why it's taking so long, I think.
Especially if Brock Purdy has the same year this year that he had last year, they got to give him $50 million a year at the end of this year.
Yeah,
right.
They're not going to spend any of that on Brandon Aiyuk.
They're not spending in it, and that's the situation they're in. I truly believe they want Brandon Aiyuk on this team, and if there was no salary cap, they'd give him $30 million a year because he is that type of player and he fits their offense and everything they're trying to do. They can't afford him, and they gotta move him. And so I think that's kind of where Aiyuk is kind of getting the noise from, is that people are saying that they can't afford him. So he's feeling a little bit slighted or dissed that, hey, they don't want me. So let me start kind of making noise around the league to where he might go. But I know, I think he'd be great here, but you're right. You give up a second round pick. I mean, but ask yourself this question, Trev. Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Would you give up Johnny Newton for Brandon Aiyuk? Would you trade Johnny Newton for Brandon Aiyuk for 1 year? 1 year of Brandon Aiyuk and maybe sign him long term? Would you give up Sam Cosmi? Would you give up Who's the dunk I don't like? Fidarian Mathis.
Yes,
I give up
Fidarian
Fidarian Mathis for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But the point is, would you give up a second round pick? These are all second round picks that they've drafted. Would you give that up for maybe only 1 year of Brandon Aiyuk?
That's tough, and I'm probably overthinking it, but it is the truth. This is the first year this regime is drafted at number 2 for us, and from their highlights and their well respect in that regards, we nailed it on the second round pick. Previous years, we missed on second round picks.
Yeah,
I know it's probably a little technicality, but it's the truth. So,
but let's just say Johnny Newton is who he's supposed to be,
for Brandon
and he
Aiyuk,
is a top defensive tackle / do it all on the line. Would you give that up for maybe only 1 year of Brandon Aiyuk if he doesn't pan out?
For maybe 1 year if he doesn't. Let's say he doesn't pan out. Will I give a second round pick for someone who doesn't pan?
Yeah. No, so you wouldn't do that.
Not Brandon Aiyuk. Now, if it was like a wide receiver 1, like a Mike Evans, maybe. I know he's older, but he's still 1,000 yards. Or Garrett Wilson, or T. Higgins, or Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Yeah, but Brandon Aiyuk, I still like. And George said he's wide receiver 1, but I think he's still option 2 in San Francisco or 3 in San Francisco, outside of Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. So if you have your wide receiver 1 as your option 3 in that offense, he's really not a wide receiver 1, then, is he? So he could kind of fit in Washington as being a wide receiver 2 or 3. It's tough, man. This is tough.
I think it'd be pretty damn good here.
I do too. I think
for 1 year, so give up Johnny Newton and then pay $30 million for Brandon Aiyuk. That's interesting.
If he pans out. Or if he doesn't pan out, you're losing him.
The pan out's the tricky part, right? That's the tricky part of the equation. If he comes in
so let's say
balls, then of course it
it
feels pretty damn good to have an awesome wide receiver.
Yeah. And
if that's the case, then yes, it would be nice to have an awesome wide receiver if he dominates in year 1, but it's the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen there. Like that's the one tricky part, right? I think so that so it's that, and it's also like you have to think about it as a balance, right? It's Johnny Newton plus minus $30 million. That's kind of the way you have to truly look at it. But I agree with you. If he balls out, then that's good. Let me throw one thing at you guys. Let me see what you think about this, right? So under Cliff Kingsbury in 2022 with Kyler Murray, they threw the ball 432 times, right? That's let's say the offense is relatively close, right? Even in San Francisco, Purdy threw it 444 times. So let's use Kingsbury's 432. Let's say Terry McLaurin had 130 targets last year. Brandon Aiyuk had 100. So that's only 200 targets remaining, right? So those 200 targets are going to be going to Ben Sinnott, Austin Eckler, Brian Robinson, Cole Turner, Jahan Dotson, and Luke McCaffrey. Do you think that we're kind of pushing them out of the way in our long-term development in regard to that? You see what I'm saying? Like 200 targets over all those different guys. Is that even something we should worry about? Or are you just happy that Brandon Aiyuk and McLaurin were actually just dominating at that point?
Yeah, I think development's a little bit overrated, but all right, go Trev.
I think you're happy with the production, those targets of Terry and Aiyuk.
Okay.
Because everybody else is pretty much a role player on this offense.
Okay.
Zach Ertz is tight end 1. Ben Sinnott can go fullback, H-back, tight end, so he's versatile. Luke McCaffrey is versatile. Jameson Crowder is versatile. So, like, I think because they're also first-year players, second-year players are still new. So, and aging players, we just mentioned Eckler. And B-Rob is just now starting to be a pass-catching running back, so he's still learning that. So I think we'd be okay. Don't you, Stoner? Yeah, 200 targets to wide receiver 1 and 2, and then 200 more to your role players.
Well, I'll be honest. I want to those first 2 guys. I want 300 targets to those first 2 guys and 130 to the others. But I do think sort of this whole idea that we want to draft and develop guys is a little bit overrated. I get it. I understand how it's more. It brings a little bit more sort of cohesion to an organization because you get to see a guy get drafted, you get to see him develop, you get to see him sign a long-term contract. Like it's better to have a Terry McLaurin than it is to have a Pierre Garçon because Terry McLaurin is a guy you developed right from the start, whereas Pierre Garçon came over. I get all that part, but Brandon Aiyuk is a stud now He's already a proven commodity. Luke McCaffrey, Ben Sinnott, anybody else you draft at any time, we have no idea if they're going to pan out. Brandon Aiyuk has already panned out. He was a first-round pick, and he gets 80 catches, 1,000 yards, and 7 or 8 touchdowns every single year. He's proven it. So if you can bring that guy in, instead of worrying about developing McCaffrey and Sinnott and Brian Robinson and guys like that, I'm all for that. I'm all for bringing the guy in who's already proven he can do it.
So it's funny. I walk into the show and Center was like, I'm on the fence, but he's adamantly for Aiyuk, right?
I am.
Were you for Aiyuk before the show? I'm just kind of curious.
Convinced. I think he was on the fence getting here, and then he heard us.
Okay.
One of us convinced him because he said he's going to be easily convinced. I have a question.
That's good. I'm good. I'm happy for you. That's awesome. Cool.
I have a question.
You're all in now. Good.
For both of you guys. This new regime, Adam Peters, I don't have to name him. We already know who it is.
Yeah.
How much should they or do they pay attention to Jayden Daniels' wants and needs when it comes to adding to the roster and making it better? Now, let's say if Sam Howell was on the other end of the phone with Brandon Aiyuk, or you know what I mean? Like, we've already had Sam Howell, then we named the starting quarterback after he came in the Cowboys game, and he's on the phone with Aiyuk, and there's a connection because he's played. Now, do you think that Jayden Daniels, we have him, Heisman Trophy winner, he's been on in the public saying he wants to play with Brandon Aiyuk. That's the only player he'd love to play for in the NFL, whatever, with. And he's on FaceTime with Aiyuk. Do you think we're looking at that and being like, Jayden, do you really want Brandon? Why should we add? Like, do you think they're going to Sam? Like, my question is, do you think they're going to Jayden Daniels during this situation right now and being like talking to him like, hey, do you really like? Are they asking questions, or are they just like, oh, they're just being social media? It's Jayden Daniels. He's they're just friends.
George, what do you think?
So I guess you're asking me, is Adam Peters approaching Jayden Daniels about this?
Yeah, because he's their number 2.
He better not be.
I think Adam Peters is a straight pro, man. I think he's a pro. He's a scout. He's a GM. He's like, he might like maybe bust a little joke, a little elbow here or there, but I think like deep down inside, he's not going to play his cards. I think Adam Peters is the real deal. I don't think he's rubbing elbows like Bruce Allen and like inviting him into the clubhouse and all that. I don't think so. I think
Christian McCaffrey kind of persuaded him to pick Luke at 100.
That's true. But I don't know. I think that was more like he just respected the McCaffrey family because he knows the kind of the regime and the pedigree. Yeah. He might have some loose conversations, but I don't think Peters is going to be swayed. I think Peters is legit, dude. I think I'm going to draft and develop kind of guy. But Trevor,
Francisco with Adam.
But that's what I was going to say. That's the one thing that all of us should be happy with, though, right? If anyone knows anything about Brandon Aiyuk, it's Adam Peters. He drafted him, right? So if that's where I won't get upset. If Adam Peters is like, all right, you know what, Brandon Aiyuk, let's do it. I'm going to pull him over here. I trust him because he's been in that locker room. He's drafted him. He's developed him. He's watched him in practice every day. He knows it's a known commodity to him. And now that he's watched the Washington practices, it'll fit. So I won't be upset by that. But I don't know. Like the other part is, why wouldn't have they have done it already, right? If they thought if it was going to happen, Brandon Aiyuk's been dangling around for a couple months now. Like this isn't a new story. It's kind of like, I don't know. That's my opinion. But Sono, what's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, he better not be asking a rookie quarterback,
He's your franchise quarterback, bro.
I mean, I get it. I understand that part.
I mean, because they're talking to like CJ Stroud. That happened a little bit.
But he's 23, 22, 23 years old, whatever he is. He does not have sort of the deep acumen on what it takes to build an organization that guys like Peters and Quinn and them have. He's just like, I want to play with my boy. This would be awesome. It'd be so much fun. But Adam Peters might be like, his style doesn't fit. If we're going to go get a receiver, we're going to go get a big receiver. We're going to go get a T. Higgins or a guy like that. Aiyuk's not big enough to be, to me, if you're kind of looking at how you want to put together a team, and this is just sort of for example, he might say this, but he's just not a good fit for this offense. And I don't care how much you like him. I don't care what you think about it. That's behind closed doors. In front of him, I might just kind of get a whatever, but I don't think it influences his decision.
And the Texans, if they're the model, right? Everybody wants Washington to be the Texans and get the quarterback and do all that kind of stuff. They waited 1 year, right? They let CJ Stroud kind of walk into the league, play one season, kind of figure it out. Then once they saw what they had, they're like, damn, okay, we actually got something here. Now it's like, here's the window, right? It's all about windows in the NFL. It's got to be a perfect situation, perfect quarterback, offensive coordinator. Everything's got to be lined up. So let's say next year, Jayden Daniels like, oh, damn, he's actually pretty damn good. Next year, push in the chips and go for it. Like I'm not opposed to it, but it just seems like I'd rather have options. The flexibility is appealing to me. I don't want to limit myself. That's where I'm at. That's all.
Breaking news: the Washington Commanders are acquiring Brandon Aiyuk and giving up a 5th-round pick. How you feel?
Ecstatic, dude. Cloud 9. I'm feeling really good about that. I would be
breaking news.
Home run. Like, what did Brandon Aiyuk do? Like, what did he get? Again, 5th-round pick would be a steal. Why? Be awesome.
Washington gave up their 2nd, 4th for Brandon Aiyuk. How do you feel right now?
I'd still be pumped, man. I'd go for it
because you got a stud.
Yeah, there's logic in me. I'm trying to be as logical as possible, but there's always a fan in me too, right? I would love as a season ticket holder that's going to be going to the game and watching them every single week. That'd be a blast, right? I would love to see that, but at the same time, I'm trying to be smart. Like, I don't know. I think it would be a great addition, but I don't think anything's going to limit you next year from getting another wide receiver next year. Like, who knows? I don't think it has to be right now, here and then. I want to see where we're going first, but I don't know.
Well, let me ask you another sort of hypothetical. Let's just say that they acquired Brandon Aiyuk for a 2nd and 4th in March. Okay, right? And then they went out and drafted Jayden Daniels with the 2nd pick, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't your mind be absolutely blown about the possibilities of what this team can be? Because this organization has said, we're going to go out and acquire talent. We're going to go out and get Austin Eckler. We're going to go out and get Brandon Aiyuk. We're going to go out and get Zach Ertz. And then we're going to draft a couple of young guys. We're going to miss out on Johnny Newton, but we're still going to have a 3rd rounder, a couple of 3rd rounders, and a 4th rounder, and all this other. If the situation was kind of flipped and they had already acquired Aiyuk, I think our entire attitudes, everybody would be all in, because we would be using the line, trust in Adam Peters. He knows what he's doing, and he thinks Brandon Aiyuk would fit Jayden Daniels really well. So don't you think it would be a little bit different if they had acquired him prior to the draft?
Go, Trevor, or what do you go ahead?
Yeah, it would have been.
Don't think it would be any different?
I think it would have been different because it would have showed us that we're getting weapons for whoever we're bringing in with the number 2 pick, which happened to be Jayden Daniels.
Yeah.
So, I think it would be different because it would set the precedent. Like, it would set this is what the Adam Peters regime is going to be.
Right.
It would be a different mindset, right? Right now, the mindset is, hey, the draft is important. We're going to keep all of our picks. We're going to build the team it's a true rebuild, right? If we acquired a wide receiver, or like Brandon Aiyuk, a blockbuster trade before the draft even happened, it's kind of like we're in win now mode. We kind of flip the switch a little bit in regard to that. So I think, honestly, the Harris Peters, the whole regime, they want to kind of slow our expectations a little bit. So I think maybe they are trying to have that rebuild, but it would be different if that's your question. I agree with that.
Trev?
Yeah, it would definitely be different.
Yeah, I just think it would be a little different mindset, like you said, George, because they would have set the tone for this is how we're going to do it.
This is what
but instead, their tone has been set. We're not spending big money on free agents, and we're going to draft a bunch of dudes. We're going to get a bunch of draft picks, and then we're going to develop these guys, which I'm good with, but I'm also good with going and getting a guy who's an absolute stud. George, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here.
Sure.
Tell us why we say this every single year, but tell us why this year is different than it's been every other year. We go into every offseason and we say this year is different. This year we know who our quarterback QB1 is, Sam Howell. This year we brought in the best offensive coordinator in the world, Eric Bieniemy. Or this year we're bringing in Fitzpatrick, or we drafted Chase Young, or whatever. Why is this year any different than any of those years past that didn't turn out to be different?
Because in the first time in over 25 years, we have full alignment. We have a general manager, an owner, a new offensive coordinator, a head coach, a new quarterback, all brought in the same year, starting from the ground up, right? There's no mixed messaging. There's no finger pointing. There's no who's in charge, who's going to be the boss in regard to that. We are aligned, right? The most beautiful thing in the NFL is when the GM, the head coach, and the quarterback are all in sync, because you kind of have that long-term vision, right? Like, by nature, the head coach and the GM have like contrasting interests, right? The head coach wants to win now, the GM wants to build for the future. So they're kind of like competing in what they want to do. If the head coach and offensive coordinator like kind of have a game plan, like, you know what, like, we don't have to win this year, we're kind of building our quarterback up, we can take it slow. There's no pressure, right? I think we're seeing that with Jayden Daniels. He isn't being anointed as the savior. Like, we kind of want to jump in on that, but like RG3, it was like fireworks and, sparks. And it was like, we had the Heisman Trophy winner. It was another game. It was really exciting to have him. But Jayden Daniels, I think they're not necessarily pushing him out front. They're treating him like all the other rookies in regard to that. Like, there's kind of tempered expectations with that. What I like, and I think truly the name of the game is Adam Peters, right? I think we have a true GM who has credibility around the league. And I think they're filling out the front office as well, like Newmark and there's every week I feel like there's another person they're adding up, like Eugene Shen and other analytics guys. It's going to be very smart, and they're making good decisions. So it just seems like everything's calculated, and I like that. It's not necessarily impulsive. Speaking of Brandon Aiyuk, so it was really organized in regard to that. So I was joking about Aiyuk, but yeah, that's why I'm excited about the team this year. I think that's why everyone's excited, to be honest.
Trev, you got anything to add in terms of why you think this year is different? You remember 1 year ago today, probably, of how excited we were about the prospect of Sam Howell and McLaurin and Dotson and B-Rob and Gibby and Logan and all that, right? And Chase and Chase and Montez and all this stuff, right? So, Trev, why do you think this year George brought up some good points, but why do you think this year is different?
It starts with Adam Peters and Dan Quinn, what they've done to this entire organization. They've completely done a 360. George said calculated. I love how they're being calculated. They're quiet. There's no leaks. There's no rumors. There's no this. There's no sources said. It's just all kept in house. There's discipline, not only with the players, but in the front office. He mentioned we went out and got like people with titles. They were hiring people with titles I can't even remember or pronounce, and I didn't even know there was a position in the football organization. You know what I mean? Stuff that's really important that didn't make it out to our ears and eyes last year or the year before that or the previous years. It's crazy how we haven't even seen a game, let alone them in football pads. And I've already forgotten about we traded Montez Sweat to Chicago and how upset I was. I forgot about how disappointing Chase Young was for me personally as a fan. I was so hyped for that, and after his rookie year. And I was hyped when we hired Ron Rivera. Like, yeah, he went to the Super Bowl once with Cam Newton, but like he went to the Super Bowl. It's Ron Rivera. He knows defense, and then to be let down like that. But like to see like what we have now without even watching them play a game of football.
Yeah.
It just makes you forget what we've had in the past, or the recent past, at least for me. You know what I mean? The John Bostics, letting him go, bringing him back. Like, you're seeing all these old like memes. I forgot he even played as a commander, or as, and you know what I mean? Or like as a member of the Washington football team. You see all these guys. Cam Sims. We were all hyped about Cam Sims being wide receiver 4 or 5. Cam Sims?
Kelvin Harmon.
Kelvin Harmon, Simi Cobbs. I love Simi Cobbs, but like that's what I liked about like that's just what I like. Like they just make you forget all the dark clouds.
Okay, I hear you. I hear both of you, and I'm in that camp. But let me just give you, the devil's advocate side of it.
Yeah.
Okay. In 2020,
yes,
when Ron Rivera came in here, and it was this whole. Dan Snyder's getting out of the way. This is going to be a coaching-centric organization, and Ron Rivera, who everybody respected, was going to be the guy that everything ran through.
Yep.
They had the number 2 overall pick, Chase Young, local guy, the Predator, an absolute stud. Right? They had maybe I'm mixing up my years, but did they not have that's right. They had Dwayne Haskins coming off of a couple of good games at the end of the previous year.
Mhm.
So you had your young quarterback who you hope was developing into your long-term position. And to me, that's not much different. You brought in Jack Del Rio, a respected, successful NFL defensive coordinator. They hired Scott Turner, at that time we thought was a young, offensive-minded, he was going to be the next Sean McVay or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And our hopes were through the roof. And until we found out that they couldn't do it a couple of years later, I mean, it was kind of early when I thought he couldn't do it, when he went from we're going to draft and develop and play for the future. And when they were like 3-9 or something, they decided, no, we're going for it because the division was so bad, whatever the record was at that time. They were so bad.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, it's really not a whole lot different. When a whole organization turns over like that, that's what we all think. And Dan Quinn has been a failure. He's been successful, but he's been a failure as a head coach. Adam Peters has had some questionable picks, even though he wasn't the guy, right? Joe Witt Jr. has never been a defensive coordinator. Cliff Kingsbury, I'm sorry, I said it when they hired him, he's failed up at every position that he's had as a coach. He has failed up. He has been fired and got a really good or even better job the next time. So I'm just throwing some devil's advocate out there that it's very similar to 2020.
You're on the right path, man. I think this is the time of the year where things are exciting, right? We are Hope Spring Eternal camp, everything. It's pretty much a 7-on-7 camp right now at OTAs. There's overall hitting or blocking. Pads aren't even on. It's just more kind of throwing and catching. So we are kind of positive in regard to that. Obviously, the elephant in the room is Dan Snyder being gone. I think he definitely had a lot of clouds. Over the past couple of years, all these court cases were kind of looming over us. There's a lot of negativity. I think there is some pure hope right now. I think getting a brand new quarterback, number 2 overall, there's some hope there. To be honest, I try to be as objective as possible. I think our defense, I'm not really worried. I'm more confident in our defense than I am in our offense next year. That's what I'm thinking.
Coming off the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL, and you're confident in them.
Because our team's completely different, right? We have 10 or 11 people that are still on the same team. But I just think that the coaching staff is much better. I think they're actually true coaches. I think we have better true teachers. They're going to be teaching our players a lot better. And I think we have a talent influx too. I think Frank Oliva is going to be better than people think. Bobby Wagner is a coach on the field. I'm worried about our cornerbacks. I don't talk to you guys that often, but I'm worried as hell about Emmanuel Forbes. I don't know how I feel about him at all. So, he's going to be. I think he's more like a sub-package cornerback. I don't think he's a true CB1 or CB2 right now. I hate to say it, but that's where I kind of see him there. I think our defense is going to be solid. I think our offense is going to be up in the air. And it's kind of like, Stoner, you're right. Got to throw the needle, right? We have that new offensive coordinator, new offensive line coach. We have a new quarterback coach. We have a new quarterback. And we have all these different things that are going on. It has to be almost like a dream scenario for all of it to hit at one time. So, I was talking to my friends the other day, a successful season in DC is Jayden Daniels looks the part. He looks like a true quarterback, and he's healthy at the end of the year. That's our base level entry. Everything else is a win, right? That's kind of where I'm at in regard. Is he not going to get blown up every hit when he's running around? I think I was worried about the weight for sure going into the draft. I'm starting to kind of fade a little bit right now. I think he's going to be okay, but we never know. That was a concern, and sometimes those concerns are true. They said Emmanuel Forbes were worried about his weight. People were like, no, it's not. But I think it showed up on film. He wasn't a great run defender on the field, so that's kind of where I'm at. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think to go along with Stoner's point about we're kind of doing the same thing as bringing in Cliff and Joe Witt and coaches, whatever. I think the difference is the coaching staff we have now have adjusted to the way the game is played now. We had Del Rio, who was successful in the early 2000s. Rivera was successful in the early 2000s. Scott Turner was a son of Norv Turner, who was successful in the early years. The game has changed from the time we hired Ron Rivera to the time we got Dan Quinn. And I think that's the difference. Yes, Joe Witt's not been the D coordinator, but he knows how to play defense in today's game. Cliff Kingsbury has failed, whatever, but he's had some success in the NFL. But, you know, maybe him being an offensive coordinator, being in charge of the offense and not entire the whole squad can be a change and a positive for his career and us as a team. And he understands how the game is played too. He just got done with Caleb Williams. He's got, you know, all the quarterback history with him. So yes, Stoner, I see the model we're doing, but I just think that we've got a staff that's adapted to the way the game is played today.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm just playing devil's advocate here because I do believe in these guys. I do believe in Dan Quinn, and I do believe in Adam Peters at this point. But I believed in Ron Rivera, and I believed in Jack Del Rio.
I know.
And it blew up in our faces. And I'm not saying just because I believed in one that the other is bound to fail as well. But I'm just saying kind of the mindset that we have here in the offseason as we look to what we hope to see next year. I mean, it could blow up in our faces, but it's okay to sort of get excited and be hopeful and think, okay, we've got our quarterback, okay, we've got our coach and all that. And so our future is a little bit more stable than it has in the past. But I don't think that this team this year is as good as I think they're going, as much as I think they're going to improve. I don't think anything more than 7 wins is probably possible at this point. I just don't think they have the all-around talent. I don't think they have the offensive line at this point to really handle what they need to do to be successful offensively. Not yet. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, the biggest X factor for me in this entire season, and that was my last question for George before he heads out, the biggest X factor in this offseason is Brandon Coleman. I think he's the biggest. It's going, whatever he does is going to dictate how successful this team is, because there's obvious Jayden Daniels. We know that part. But if you don't get that left tackle thing figured out this year with a tiny Jayden Daniels back there, it's going to be trouble. It's going to be Sam Howell, on pace for 120 sacks sort of year. So if he doesn't turn out and you end up with Cornelius Lucas or Trent Scott, I think that's a bad thing. And that's really where they're going to get in trouble. So George, who do you think, before we get you out of here, who do you think is the biggest X factor, not named Jayden Daniels?
So I love what you said about Brandon Coleman. I think you're right about that, but I won't double dip on that. I think that's a great one, because I think we do need that left tackle. I think to start the year, Cornelius Lucas will probably start the year, and potentially Brandon Coleman will be in like week 4, 5, 6, if he even proves to be a tackle. So, but if he hits in this draft as a home run, but I think McCaffrey, like I'm all in on McCaffrey. Maybe I'm just kind of like I'm drinking the Kool-Aid right now, but I like it, man. Bro. I like him. I think he's good, and I think if he can actually, I guess, are we just doing rookies or doing all players? Like I guess does it matter? X factor, well, whatever. I'll stick with the rookies, and I basically say McCaffrey, because I think if he actually develops, he comes out there and he looks legit and he actually is contributing, we wouldn't even be talking about Aiyuk a couple of months from now, right? So we'll be happy in regard to that. So I like him. I think he's going to be a hard player. Only 2 years as a wide receiver, is developing every day, has that legendary work ethic. So I'm excited about that. So I want him to go out there, and like, it's so funny. Like our boy Nate Coleman, I don't know if you guys remember him at all, but Nate Coleman's a friend of mine, and he's like, he always talks about like, what's it called? Like the Breakfast Club. And it basically was like Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford eating breakfast every morning. They became like super close friends, became a great connection in regard to that. We're hearing that with Luke McCaffrey and Jayden Daniels right now, waking up at 5:45, walking the fields and doing all that. So hopefully that connection comes about. So I'm excited about that.
Trev, who you got for the X Factor?
Man. Both are really, really good.
Popping in here real quick, and he's saying Biadish is the guy.
I like Biadish, yeah. Badass. I like badass for sure.
Yeah, I do. I like him too. I'm excited. I'm just going to add to the already ones that we said. Austin Eckler. We haven't had anybody like that coming out of the backfield with us for a long time. We've had some players that we wanted to be like that but didn't pan out. Antonio Gibson, Roy Halou Jr., Darius Geis. I'll take it back to those guys, But Austin Eckler is a red zone weapon, and that's something that we have not been able to do in the past several years with different coaches, different quarterbacks, and different players. We cannot score in the red zone. Austin Eckler is a touchdown machine. He just scores touchdowns and he just converts third downs. and that's huge for us. I think that's a huge X factor. If he can go back to being that year 4, 5, 6, 3 of the Chargers, Austin Eckler, they're going to be scoring some points for us.
Did you see what he said on this podcast the other day that he was on, that the reason Eckler didn't go back to the Chargers is that the Chargers wanted him to be, the bell cow type back, the guy who's going to carry the ball first and second down. And he said, that's not who I am. And especially not anymore as I've gotten older. I need to be sort of an X factor type back. I need to be a third down back, not a guy who's carrying it every single play.
Two things on that I'll get out here because I'll jump off. But I think what we're going to see in Los Angeles is that basically Harbaugh is going to put that Michigan flavor on top of that team, and they're thinking Blake Corum. They're going to be handing that ball 300-400 times to their running back. And Austin Eckler isn't a bell cow back; he's more of a scat back receiving back, which I think is going to be great in regard to that. And the last thing I'm going to say, because the X factor, I thought that was exclusively connected to the rookies. Bobby Wagner, man, I think he's going to be legit. I hope he's legit. Like, Bobby Wagner is legitimately one of my favorite players of all time. Like, I played linebacker in high school, and I love Fred Warner, Ray Lewis. Bobby Wagner is always one of my favorite guys. If he comes out there and he actually is legit and he's actually still capable and he can coach on the field like London Fletcher, dude, that's going to change our defense 100% right there. I
can't believe he's in a Washington uniform.
Isn't it, dude? There's so many storylines, man. It's like everywhere you look is a new player, a different person to look out for. So it's pretty cool.
How many concussions do you think you sustained playing linebacker in high school?
I don't even want to know, to be honest with you. I'm sure. I know 1 or 2 for sure, but I never went to the doctor for it, but I know this, definitely there's some action up there for sure.
All right, so that's going to wrap up this particular segment of the game, in which, again, if you see the graphics there, we talked more Brandon Aiyuk here with the great George Cary from the Big Doug and Cary Show and all kinds of other stuff. George, thanks again. We really appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts about Brandon Aiyuk and other things with the Commanders. You can always check him out on Twitter at George Cary or at GCarmy21 on your Twitter machine. We still don't call it X.
Absolutely.
Yet. We still call it Twitter.
Yeah.
Me too.
But check him out there. And again, check him out at with Big Doug and the Big Doug and Cary Show as well. You can find him all over the place. George, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate you.
Good to see you, George.
Good seeing you guys. Take care. See you guys around, all right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And when we come back, we got a whole other segment here in the cool down where we are going to talk about the Commander's log. And then, we're going to not spend too much time on it, but stay with us. We want to talk all about the Commander's log. So stick with us. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Ref the District, episode number 178. Again, I'm the Stoner. That's Trev. We got a little bit more to talk about, and that is the Commander's Log, which came out after last week's live show. And we want to talk a little bit about that show. Some interesting tidbits that I noticed that probably a lot of other people may not have noticed, but I want to talk about those. Although when it came out, I don't think I was on Twitter, so I don't know what everybody was kind of talking about when it came out. But before we get into that, again, appreciate everybody who is in here with us today. I mean, we've just had some great stuff going on in the chat. We don't ignore what you guys are doing. Make sure you hit that like button. And if you're listening on audio, make sure you leave a rating and review wherever you're listening so that more people can check us out. Because the more you interact, the more it gets moved around. So we appreciate all of you. Let's get into Commander's Log. Trev, and I wanted to talk about a few things that really was really interesting to me. First of all, people love Commander's Log, right? Everybody loves Commander's Log.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we also embrace Hard Knocks? This is Hard Knocks. This is what Hard Knocks is. It gives you that insight in what's going on behind the scenes. How much did you love that episode, Trev? I guess I'm leading the witness. Did you love that episode, Trev?
I've watched it twice.
Yeah, I know, right? It's just so awesome to see the behind the scenes stuff.
It's what we want as a fan.
Yeah.
how did you come up with this? How did you come up with that? Like, what did it take to do this? What did it take to do that? That's what we want to see as fans. That's why we love the quarterback show on Netflix. Season 2, I can't wait. That's why we love Hard Knocks, and I'm so mad that they chose the Giants. Anyway,
No, who wants to
it's
watch
just like
Daniel Jones?
I mean, yeah, like their offseason was Saquon Barkley's gone, Daniel Jones is healthy. The end.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like we had a whole new makeover. We got rid of the AstroTurf. Like we had a lot going on. They pick the Giants. But anyways, we're here and there. But yeah, we love the nitty-gritty behind the scenes stuff because the public smoke blowing is getting old. So we like to see the real deal stuff.
Yeah. And especially I think the draft room stuff was fascinating to watch.
So many people.
And Hard Knocks. They do a Hard Knocks training camp, a Hard Knocks. I think they do a Hard Knocks. They're going to do a Hard Knocks off season.
Yeah, that's the
they
Giants.
got Hard Knocks in season, and then they got like Hard Knocks like they're doing a whole division or something.
The AFC, the Pittsburgh division, whatever division that is.
Yeah, like AFC
Pittsburgh
North,
Browns.
I think.
Yeah, AFC North. Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. Everybody loves the stuff. They're eating it up. The content's amazing, and so watching the Commanders log was pretty awesome. Here's a couple of points. Mm-hmm. Did you notice how much Jason Wright is still very much involved? I mean, didn't we all think that when this new regime came in that he was going to get pushed out the door, but he's still very much involved with this organization.
I think he's doing more of the role he set out to have when he came to us as an employee than what he did in the past for us. In the past, he was the face. He was, leading the name change charge, which it might have been his job, but he was more out front, more in the public eye. I mean, he even made an appearance on our podcast last year, which was pretty dope. You guys got to go back and check that out. It's pretty cool. That was we interviewed him in the middle of like the sale and like right near all that. So right when the time was transitioning, so check it out. But it seems like he's doing behind the scenes things that he's supposed to be doing. Like I think he was probably in charge of the whole Darryl Green thing. Is that what you're referring to? Seeing him in that segment? Yeah. Yep. So that's cool. I'm glad he's still with us because he did nothing but positive things for us so far. So
yeah. And by the way, the whole the appreciation that Darryl Green had for this new ownership group, that he felt that he's now back kind of part of this organization again.
That's horrible, bro.
Right. That's
more sad than it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Like that, I'm happy for him, but that's more sad than happy because it's Darryl Green. Right. Gold jacket Darryl Green. Fastest man in the game, Darryl Green.
Yeah.
And for somebody to come in and we ain't even won a game yet, and he's already feeling like he belongs back in the building. You're Darryl Green. You should feel like that no matter what.
Yep. Yeah.
So that was telling to how bad it really was in this organization.
And how about Martin Mayhew playing such a role in the draft room, right? And we all, again, that was another guy we thought was, as soon as they brought in this new front office, that he was going to get pushed out. And he seems to be playing a fairly big role with draft decisions.
That's what he does. That's his talent. That's his role in the NFL. Not what he did with us with the Ron Rivera, giving them the assistant GM 2 weeks and taking away and something went wrong with assistant GM Mark. Well, he's the GM again? Nah, he worked with Adam Peters before. He's probably worked with Lance Newmark in Detroit before. That three-headed monster. Mm-hmm. I'm for it. Stay right there in the draft room. That's it.
I thought it was a couple more interesting things, and you talked about this a lot already today about the how everything's so tight and no leaks and everything. When Jayden got that call and he said this, he didn't know he was going number 2 overall. He had no idea. He thought maybe, but there was no leaking to Jayden or his agents or to the public or anything that Washington was going Jayden Daniels, even though later on in one of the press conferences, I think it was either Peters or Quinn said, look, it was Jayden Daniels from the jump. Yeah. We didn't even consider anybody else. We had him number 1 on our board the whole time. Yeah. But the leaks, the fact that they're not leaking stuff out is very impressive.
And the leaks that did get out turned out to be completely false.
Yeah.
Like saying, well, they invited all those quarterbacks to Top Golf. Are they really set on Jayden Daniels? Yeah. They're just doing due diligence.
Yeah, they
just
are.
made a fun weekend for a couple of college kids, pretty much.
Yeah. Adam Peters' calmness
Oh,
during the draft,
man.
like, you know, they only have 10 minutes in the
Cool.
first round, right? And then I think it's 5
Yeah.
minutes after that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would be flipping out, Trev, if like
Not him,
team
bro.
guys are calling, Howie Roseman's calling, hanging up,
Same.
calling right back.
Same.
You know, nope, we're sticking with this trade. We're not moving.
Yep.
He's so calm under pressure, and that was pretty cool to see.
I mean, and you got to wonder, are there classes that you take or meditation things you do? Because like,
right.
That's almost equivalent to the guys who have to go and you know, dismantle like the bombs with the big bomb suits on.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That.
Yes.
Yeah. Adam Peters.
I mean, he even said, "Yo, we hug." Like he was telling people what we do. We hug here, we hug then, and we wait a few minutes. Like Dan Quinn's like, "Yo, my God," and Adam's like, "Yeah, you know, it's whatever, bro." So like, I agree with you. That clearly means he's done it before and he knows what he's doing.
Yep. And that's the kind of guy you want in charge. Okay,
sure.
You know, calm under pressure like that. Another thing I loved was Josh Harris being in there, and all he did was ask questions. He never said, do this, do that. He was not running that room. He was an observer. He was no different than you know, some of those other guys that were just kind of hanging around in there that had no impact on what they were doing.
And no offense to him, no shade to him, but he kind of acts like he has no idea what he's doing in the NFL. You can tell when he's telling the players, "Hey, man, we're really excited for you to be here, man. Like, we just hope you're ready. Okay, bye." Like, that's what it is. And then I think when they're about to pick Ben Sinnott, he was like, "Is that going to affect Zach Ertz?" And that was cool to hear. And they were like, "No, he's fine." He was like, "Okay, cool. That's fine with me." So, like, I agree with you. He's just staying in his own lane.
Yep, staying in his lane.
Asking about the game to gain more knowledge. And he kind of proved that he's learned a little bit when he asked that Zach Ertz question. He understands Zach Ertz came here to be tight end one, which also let us know that Zach Ertz is definitely tight end one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
He's all whatever, but he's definitely, he is tight end one. Josh Harris confirmed that with the Ben Sinnott thing. But yeah, that's beautiful. This is beautiful.
Yeah. It stood out to me how much Quinn wanted Sanders still from Michigan. I mean, he was all in on this dude. He thinks he's the best nickel corner in the entire draft. When Peters told him that, I think it was Cincinnati before him, took the guy from Michigan, and Quinn wanted to cry, right?
Yo, he dropped the pen. He was like, okay. I was like, yo, Adam in here playing around. That's how cool and calm collected he is.
Right.
He in there joking around. Yeah.
But you can also see just kind of the chemistry between the two of them, that it's not a power struggle, right? The chemistry is there. That again, Dan Quinn understands his place. He has influence, but it's Adam Peters making the decisions, and Dan Quinn just saying, "I love this pick," or "I love what we're doing here."
Right.
But the chemistry's great.
Going back to when Dan Quinn said he always wanted to coach that guy ever since he left Michigan's pro day or whatever.
Yeah.
I always wanted to know how much do head coaches actually pay attention on these pro day visits or whatever. But it seems like Dan Quinn is like literally all in, like studying beyond just the interview for 5 minutes or the tape here. Like, for have somebody to want to coach a nickel cornerback,
I know,
who's probably no bigger than me.
Yeah.
It's awesome to see.
Let's see. A couple more things here before we get out of here. Okay. When they were deciding on pick 100, right?
Yeah.
And Peter said something. It was just kind of something that went by real quick. And again, maybe people were talking about this, but I haven't seen it. They were saying that they had a choice between two guys, and they ended up going with McCaffrey or whatever. And I just sort of wondered, who was the other guy?
Yeah, same.
Who was picked? Maybe who was the next wide receiver picked? Maybe it was that guy or whatever. But I don't know. Was this kind of a big topic out there in the Twitter world or anything about?
I didn't see that, but
Yeah,
I saw
he
that
said-
in the commander's log, and I kind of wondered the same thing. I was like, because Adam Peters was like, "Hey, can't always go wrong with the McCaffrey family."
Right,
So
exactly.
it's like, okay, well, who was the other guy that you were willing to roll the dice on?
I'm wondering
If this
who
guy
the other dude
wasn't named McCaffrey, you know, like I just want to know: was it a wide receiver? Was it a cornerback? Was it a defensive? Like, was it a linebacker?
It gave me the impression that it was another wide receiver. Like they were going
Okay.
wide receiver, and they were just trying to decide if it was going to be McCaffrey or somebody else.
Let me see if I can find out who that was.
Mark was saying he thought maybe McMillan or Franklin. Locked On was saying Johnny Wilson, quite possibly.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that was just sort of interesting to me that he asked that question and nobody seemed to be talking about it, but maybe they were. And then here's one again. This is just me being real nitpicky. All right. So
Okay.
they were doing the whole draft thing, right? The commander's log was going through the draft for each guy, and then they had each guy sitting down and talking about their draft moment, right? They had every guy. They had Jayden, they had Johnny Newton, they had Sanderstill, they had Sinnott, they had McCaffrey, right?
Yeah.
And they talked about the draft pick of Dominique Hampton.
Yeah.
Right? I think he's the safety from Washington, right? He didn't have anything of him on camera.
That's fine.
They even had the guy who was picked after him, the Notre Dame defensive end, Jean Baptiste, right? I think that's his name.
Okay.
Might be botching it.
Yeah.
How come old Dominique Hampton didn't do anything on camera?
I don't know, but he did a little interview with Brian Colbert on like the rookie race hell with the rookies or whatever. He appeared on that, but I didn't really notice that. Probably.
Well, I mean, they were like talking about each pick, and then they got to him, and they were talking about that they took this guy out of Washington or whatever, and then next thing you know, they went on to the next pick.
Maybe he was sick and wasn't there that day, or couldn't be there that day.
Yeah, you could be right. You could be right.
I appreciate your concern, though.
I was a little bit concerned. Maybe what's going on there? But heck, Trev, this was one heck of a show here in Reference District, episode 178. We appreciate everybody who was in here. Oh, Trev, what you got?
Yeah, before we go, I just want to promote something here in Lexington. So I got a couple of friends, 30-year-old twin brothers. They started their clothing line called Block Love.
Block Love.
Pretty much means like your community, the blocks come together. Block Love. So
Love it.
Need some shirts today. Block Love Worldwide Entertainment.
Oh, I like that.
They've got black, red, and brown right now. I can post the link in the chat or whatever, or on Twitter or somewhere. Just somebody get in touch with me and we'll get you hooked up. But yeah, please support. $15 t-shirts right now. They've got shorts coming out for July 4th, so stay tuned. But I just want to promote them and get them out there.
So they're designers?
Yeah, they're designers. So just
Got
making the stuff from clothes. So
is it is the website like blocklove.com?
Or do they not have a website
yet?
They do. I can send it to you. I just don't know it by heart.
Cool.
Because but yeah, I'll send it in the group chat and we'll get it out there. So.
Cool. All the best to your boys there and their endeavor, in their new endeavor, and hopefully they're very successful. But Block Love, I love the sort of the concept of that, and I love what they're doing.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
All right. So again, we got to thank everybody who's here. Again, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the what's the other thing that you hit? The like button, the share button.
Subscribe.
That's it. See, that's why Nathan's so good at this, and that's why I just always forget these things. But yeah, make sure you hit the like and hit the subscribe. If you're listening on audio, make sure you hit that you could leave a rating and review. Everybody was in here, fantastic stuff that everyone was saying. I want to thank everybody. Deluxe was in here, Uptown Dre, Roger, Command the Room, Gus, Lockdown Law, Smack City. I don't think we know Smack City. Appreciate you stopping by. Brian, of course, was in here. Grimjaw, Mark was in here. Mark Collector. All you guys who are in here, we appreciate all that you guys do. James Jones was in here as well. all the guys who are at the beginning. I know Tommy T, of course, is always in here. And George stopped by, Allison, Jimmy Lee. Nathan, of course, stopped by for a little bit. We appreciate everybody. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. We had a blast talking about Brandon Aiyuk, talking about what the team should be getting prepared for, as there's only about 4 weeks until camp. The rookies have to report to camp, and it's an exciting time to be a Washington Commanders fan, Trev. I think you'll agree with that.
Daggone it.
Yeah.
I meant to say this about camp real quick.
Yeah.
I saw on Twitter before he got on here, the Twitter account B Mission Finley asked the question, how do we feel about only having 7 practices open to the fans?
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm gonna piggyback on that, being like 2 of them, I think, are season ticket members only or something like that. So how do you feel about that, Stone? Do you think it's great or you think it's not good?
Yeah, well, first let's just say that's not just a Commanders thing. That's league wide. They're really cutting back on their amount of camp dates because their camp dates have been cut a little bit because of the whole collective bargaining agreement. So it's understandable that they're doing that. But so I don't really have a big problem with it. I guess if I'm a guy who likes to go to camp every day, that would be a little bit disappointing. But I only go to 1 day, maybe 2 every year. So it doesn't really affect me personally.
Same. I think the same way. I did notice that there are no Saturday practices available for fans. They're all during the week or on Sunday. So
okay.
But yeah, I think it's cool. And you mentioned that you can't buy multiple passes for multiple dates like you could in the previous years.
Yep.
You got to pick a date and buy the tickets that date, and then
that's a big deal. And tickets they don't go on sale, but tickets become available tomorrow at 11 a.m. on commanders.com. And again, like you said, the important thing about that is that in years past, you could you could get 6 tickets for every single day that's available. Now you can only get it for one particular day based on each email account that you use. You have to download Ticketmaster and has to be linked to that account and all that. So, so it is kind of a big deal that they're cutting back, but it's league wide. This is not something that the Commanders are sort of skimping out on. And also I think it's okay because look, this team needs to be without the distractions of fans as much as possible.
Yes.
So that they can get their S together as a big season, rookie season for your quarterback.
I agree.
So, all right. Well, again, thanks everybody for joining us here on episode 178. Ref the District is a proud member of the Believe Network, and we are brought to you by this week and every week by Bet Online and Don't Sleep Energy. And Trev, until next time,
go get Brandon Aiyuk.
Ooh, I like it. Be a fan.